池上彰と
増田ユリヤの
YouTube 学園。
今年あった大きなニュースの中にアメリカ軍がアフガニスタンから撤退するということがありましたよね。
はい、本当にね逃げ出したかったのに逃げ出せなかった人たち大勢取り残されて、これも大きなニュースになったよね。
日本がねなかなかその関係者を救出できないというようなことで一体どうしたらよかったんだろうというような話もありましたけれども、そんな中例えば女性であるとか子どもであるとか、またタリバン政権になると職業によっては本当に国を追われてしまうようなそんな立場にある方たちを国際 NGO の方たちで救い出すということをした人たちがいるんですね。それが今日ご紹介するイスラエルの NGO の方たちのアフガニスタン人救出作戦なんです。で、たまたま私がイスラエルで取材で以前お世話になったこちらのヨタム・ポリツェルさんという方がこの作戦に大きく関わってたんですね。とはいえそのアフガニスタンとは離れた国ですし、どうやって救出したのかということで、いろいろな国が関わることになりました。で、こちらをご覧いただきたいんですが、まずアフガニスタンからどこに逃げたらいいのかという問題がありますよね。で、まずはそのお隣のタジキスタンに行って、じゃあそこから違う国に行こうというようなことを考えたんですが、そのためにカタールとか UAE アラブ首長国連邦といったこういった中東の国であるとか、それからヨーロッパのアルバニア、こういった国も巻き込んで救出をするということになったんですね。
なんかね話を聞くと本当に波乱万丈というか、ハラハラドキドキ、なんかねハリウッド映画を見ているような救出劇というの、それを証言してくださったんだよね。
はい、そのヨタムさんに私と池上さんでお話を伺いました。ヨタムさん、今日よろしくお願いします。
お願いします。
はい、まず今回アフガニスタンから多くの方々を救出したということなんですけれども、それはどういうきっかけでどういう形で始まったプロジェクトだったんでしょうか。
And in fact, Israel and Afghanistan don't have diplomatic relationship. So as Israelis, we are not allowed to visit Afghanistan. And following the Taliban takeover in late August, we started to receive many requests for rescue from Afghanistan. And it came from different people, different sources. And because we are Israelis and we didn't have any team in Afghanistan, I had to tell all these people that unfortunately we cannot help. Just one day before the Americans left Afghanistan, I received 3 interesting phone calls. And actually, it's important to mention at that time I was with my wife, Mayo, and our children in Gifu, in Japan, on a family holiday. But I received 3 phone calls. The first one was from a journalist, Israeli-British journalist. Her name is Dana Harman. And she visited Afghanistan, and she wrote a story for New York Times about the first Afghan girls robotics team. This was a very famous group of girls who were doing science and robotics, first time in Afghanistan, and they won many international awards. So they became like a symbol for women empowerment in Afghanistan. So after the Taliban took over, it was very clear that these girls are in danger, and they contacted her to see if she can help rescue them. And she knew me and my organization, so she contacted me. This was phone number 1. Phone number 2 was from another Israeli-Canadian billionaire, very rich person, his name is Sylvan Adams. And he is helping cycling, bicycle, Chidencha. So he helped in Afghanistan to establish the first girls cycling team. And unfortunately, the Taliban do not allow girls to practice sports, and they are also in danger just for riding the bike. And then the third phone call came from a friend, a partner who actually worked with us to support Syrian refugees before. He is a guy from Denmark, and he has another organization called Team Humanity. And he told me that one of his partners is originally from Afghanistan. He's now a Danish citizen, but he's originally from Afghanistan. And he has some contacts in the Taliban, and he can help evacuate people. So in Taliban, you have many different tribes and families. And this person is originally from Afghanistan, and his family members, he still had family members in Afghanistan, and they had good contacts with one of the tribes of the Taliban. You know, in the last days of August, people were still trying to evacuate people from the airport in Kabul, in Afghanistan. But as we all seen the pictures on TV of these people hanging on the planes and tens of thousands of people trying to get into the airport, it was almost impossible to escape from Afghanistan through this airport. And then after that, we had the suicide bomb there that killed more than 100 people, including 13 American soldiers. That was all in the last day. So we realized that we have to find a different way to rescue these people. So we decided to try to arrange a land crossing from Afghanistan to Tajikistan. And we organized a bus. And this bus had 42 people. Half were from this robotics team and half from the cyclist team, and some family members. So it was mostly girls, but some of them had brother with them or some family members. So altogether 42 people, and we arranged this bus. And our contact with the Taliban, he arranged a special permit from the Taliban, a special letter that allows this group to cross all the way to the border without any problem.
その許可証っていうのは、あれですか、すぐにこう発行してもらえるようなものなんですか？
The permit was very quick on these days, maybe one day, because we really had good contacts there. And at that time, not many people tried to cross, so it was very quick. But this permit was just on the Taliban side, not Tajikistan side. That was a different challenge. We thought it would be easy to convince the Tajikistan government to open the border. But it was not easy at all, because they were afraid that if they opened the border, thousands and hundreds of, maybe millions of Afghan refugees will try to cross. So the border was closed and they didn't let us go through. And we had to start pushing and connecting with some world leaders like prime ministers and presidents and big business people who have big business in Tajikistan. Tajikistan have a big aluminium factory. So we actually found the people who have the biggest investments in aluminium, and they called the president. And we also knew that in a country like Tajikistan, in order to get this permit, you have to get direct approval from the president. It's not enough just from some minister. You really have to go to the top. And it was very, very difficult. But after 3 days of pressure, diplomatic pressure, we were able to convince the Tajiki president to open the border and to allow this group to transit. So after the border was open, the government of Tajikistan, they contacted me and they told me, we will open the border, but there is one condition, that you have to take this group out in 24 hours. So they only allow transit. They don't allow them to stay there. And of course, at this time, I was so stressed and I was worried, because when this group was stuck for 3 days in the border, they were surrounded by Taliban, and I was worried something could happen to them. So of course, immediately I said, yes, no problem. We will take them out after 24 hours.
すみません。 タリバンが、バスを警備してたっていうのはどういうことなんですか？そこはちょっともうちょっと分かるように説明していただいてもいいですか？
No, the bus left. No, they were staying in a shelter near the border. It's like a kind of a building that they stayed there for 3 days. Taliban was outside, but they were starting to lose their patience because they thought we have a special permit. The Taliban in this group, they looked at us as a very special group because we have a permit from the Taliban. So they knew that we are trying to cross the border. It wasn't a secret, but when they saw the border is not opening, they started to ask questions, what is going on? Also, all these girls, some of them are famous, but they are all wearing burqa, so you cannot see their faces. And the Taliban are not allowed to open the burqas. That's according to the Taliban law. So if the girls wear burqa, nobody can recognize them. So after they crossed the border, we started to make many phone calls to different countries to see who can take them from Tajikistan, because we knew we only have 24 hours. And we called many different countries, but it seemed very difficult. And then one of my friends, she offered me to try the UAE, United Arab Emirates. And you probably know that we have a peace with United Arab Emirates between Israel and United Arab Emirates only for 1 year. It was exactly 1 year since we had a peace agreement. So it's a very special relationship. And this friend introduced me to someone very famous in the UAE. He's a famous TV host there. And he is very close to the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Zayed of UAE. And he called him and asked if the UAE can take this group and provide them with a temporary shelter for a few months until their visa will be processed. And the plan is that they will go to Canada, but the process to Canada takes very long time. So they really need few months. So when the Crown Prince heard about this group, he immediately said yes and agreed to take them to the UAE after maybe 30 minutes of conversation. And we knew that the government of UAE did it for two reasons. One, because they want to support Afghans, but number two, it was also very important for them to do this joint collaboration with Israel on this first joint humanitarian mission between these two countries. So this when we got this approval, we still had one more problem. And the problem was that not all these people, only half of these people had passports, because many of them, they never left Afghanistan, so they didn't have passports. So, and they could not travel to the UAE without passport. So we needed to find another solution for that problem. And I got in touch with a woman called Sally Oren. She's the wife, well, actually ex-wife of Israeli ambassador to Washington. And when she was in Washington, she was a good friend of the wife of the Afghan ambassador. And this Afghan ambassador is now in another country, but and he's not representing the Taliban, but he still have access to passport. He can still make passports. So this Afghan ambassador started to create these passports for Afghans who didn't have it. And he sent me these passports. And it's really reminding me the story of Sugihara Chune, who was issuing visas. So this guy was issuing passports and sending it to us to Tajikistan, so people can continue to their next destination.
どのくらいかかったんですか、その送ってもらうまでっていうのは。
More than 24 hours, but less than 72 hours. So it was all done in less than 3 days, which was what the Tajikistan government gave them 3 days. They told me 24 hours, but actually they gave 3 days transit visa. So we were able to take them out before 72 hours. So at that time, we arranged a plane. We chartered a plane, a private plane from Tajikistan to Abu Dhabi. When we fixed the plane, I decided I have to go to join this group in Abu Dhabi. So I immediately rushed. In 20 minutes, I decided to go from Gifu to Narita. I had to find a quick COVID test. I think I did it in the fastest in Japanese history. They gave me result in 30 minutes in Narita. And I went on a flight to Dubai so I can meet this group before they arrived.
特別に30分でやってもらったってことなんですか？
もちろん、もちろん。So the group arrived to Abu Dhabi, and I think because this group was special, everybody knew about this group. They received a very special welcome. They were waiting for them with people from the president's office, and they treat them like celebrities, like movie stars. I was there with them. It was a very beautiful moment. And they took them to the special compound. They have a special, they call it Emirates Humanitarian City, which is a place they used to give for people who are quarantined because of COVID. And now they are, because COVID is not, that big in the UAE, now they are using it to give a place for Afghan refugees. It's a very nice place. They all went through COVID test. Then after they all got the vaccine, and they got a very special treatment there. And I was there with them to make sure they are okay. But after 2 days, I saw that they are okay and safe. So they didn't need my help there anymore for this group. And then we didn't plan to continue. Because this first rescue mission was so stressful and complicated, and we didn't plan to continue. But we received many, many requests from other people to rescue. So, for example, we found out there was another cycling team, and they are family members of the first group. And then we also received requests from judges, female judges, who actually prosecuted the Taliban and sent them to prison. So they were very vulnerable. And then we received requests from some families of Afghan diplomats that have family members still in Afghanistan. And then we even received a request from the Israeli president to rescue the last Jewish family in Afghanistan. So it was a very difficult to say no. We decided to make another group of a total of 125 people. So 3 buses, not just 1 bus like the first group, 3 buses. And the plan was to do the same as the first group, to cross through the border. And we believed that we still have the permit from the Taliban. Unfortunately, the situation was different and we didn't have the permission from the Taliban. So we took 3 buses and they went all the way to the border. But when they reached the border, the Taliban didn't let them cross to Tajikistan. So that was a very big problem. And then the Taliban people there, they actually surrounded the group, and we had a kind of like a hostages situation because they wanted to arrest them. So we had to negotiate, to find a way to negotiate with the Taliban. We contacted people in Qatar because we knew Qatar have some kind of relationship with Taliban. And they called some Taliban commander, and also the Afghan people that we had in our group, they were able to negotiate with the Taliban, and they convinced them to let them go. But the Taliban told them that they cannot try to cross again, and if they will try to cross again the border, they will all be killed. We were finally able, after maybe 4 or 5 hours of, again, very stressed that they were surrounded by Taliban, we were able to release them. And it was clear that we cannot cross the border by land and we have to find another solution. So we decided to try to arrange a rescue flight from another city called Mazar Sharif in the north, in the other part of Afghanistan, because we knew that some groups were able to arrange these flights. So we decided to try to rescue them by flight instead of by land. But we had another big problem that 41 people in this group didn't have passports. And we knew that in order to fly, they really need these passports. So again, we contacted this embassy and we created these 41 passports. But this time it was different because we had to transfer them into Afghanistan. So I was there with my team members in Tajikistan, and we went all the way to the border of Afghanistan, and we used a special delivery person to deliver these passports. And we thought it will be safe and they will receive it on the other side, but unfortunately the Taliban took these passports. And again, we had to negotiate with them to find a way to release these passports. And the Taliban said that if the people who have their passports there, if they will go and demand that they will receive their own passport, then they will give it to them. Understand? So that's exactly what we did. And again, after 2 days that the Taliban held these passports, these people were able to go there and receive their passport directly.
結局そのパスポートを一人一人じゃあ渡すっていうことになったときに、タリバンの方はそれは約束を守ってきちっとこう渡してくれたっていうことになるんですか？
Yeah, by family, yeah.
その特別な配達人ってどんな人って言ったら変ですけど、どういう人がそういうことをやってるんですか？
So there's between this border on Tajikistan and Afghanistan, there is one person who is doing this kind of a taxi delivery, going between these two countries and deliver these special messages and special delivery because they don't have direct relations, but he is doing these special deliveries there.
その人自身は危なくはないんですか？
He's not like he's recognized by both sides, so he's doing like this officially, kind of. Yeah, after we transferred the passports and finally everyone got it, they went to the airport with these passports, and everything was ready for the flight. But even in the very last minute, just before people was supposed to get on the plane, again, the Taliban in the airport, they looked at these passports and they said, we don't recognize these passports because we didn't make them. You know, it was made by an embassy that is not connected to Taliban. So they wanted to take all these people again to prison. At this time, the company that organized the flight, they were able to negotiate and maybe had to pay some tax or something like that. I don't know exactly. And they were able to get everyone on the flight safely.
今、税金っておっしゃいましたけれども、それはどういうことなんですか？お金が動いたってことなんですか、ここで。
I don't know. We didn't pay anything to the Taliban directly, but we of course have to pay to hire this plane. It's a lot of money. So we assume that maybe some of it is the Taliban fee. And we obviously are not allowed to deal with the Taliban directly. So, the Taliban, this is maybe they call it exit fee, exit visa. But I don't know. Anyway, more important is that the people were safe on the plane. After the flight that we took them was also for Tajikistan. And again, we had a different problem because this second group could not go to the UAE. So we had to find a different place. We didn't get the approval for the UAE, and we had to find a different place. And this group was stuck for 65 hours almost in the airport in Tajikistan for almost 3 days until one of our main donors, she actually knew the Prime Minister of Albania. So she called him and he agreed to take this group to Albania. And together with this group, we flew to Albania. And it's quite amazing because Albania is not a very rich country, but they are taking 4,000 Afghan refugees, more than many other countries who are much richer. So we took them to Albania, and now this group is in Albania in a nice hotel on the beach, together with many other Afghan refugees. And 2 weeks ago, I met with the Prime Minister of Albania to thank him for his support. And I told him what you did was amazing. He said, what I did was normal. It's amazing that not many other countries are helping these people. Yeah, so it was a big success, but still we have some issues. The one main issue is the permanent visa for these people, and we are mainly working and trying to get it from Canada, but Canada just had elections, so they have a new minister, and it will take some months. And also another challenge is that because of our track record and our success, we still receive thousands of requests for rescues, and it's very difficult to help everyone. So many people are in a dangerous situation and they want to get out, but obviously we cannot help all of them.
他に同じような活動をしている団体ってあるんですか？あるとしたらどのくらいあるんでしょう？
ありますけど、it's mostly Americans who have some military connections. So, American military people who have contacts in Afghanistan, they served in Afghanistan and they want to help people who work with them. That's mainly.
なるほどね。費用の話ありましたよね。これだけいろいろな、飛行機であるとか、ね、移動のバスであるとか、いろいろな形でお金が莫大にかかると思うんですけれども、その費用っていうのはどうやって工面していったんでしょうか？
So we have a very good donors, people who want to support Afghanistan, like this Sylvan Adams that I mentioned. And there's another big foundation that they want to stay anonymous who support it. Luckily, the funding part was not so difficult because a lot of people want to support. When we decided to do this rescue flight from Afghanistan, we have to do it very quickly. And we had to pay a lot of money very quickly. So I called this donor and asked them to transfer $370,000, and they did it in 10 minutes. So that was big help. すごかった。
よかった。あれですか、お金のことは考えずに行動をまずしていくんですか？その救出活動っていうのは。それはもう、お金を出してくれる人がいるということが、ある程度分かってるっていう感じなんでしょうか？それは走りながらやっていくようなことなんでしょうか？
Now, every time there is a disaster in the world, especially when it's in the news, a lot of people want to support. So we know that when these stories are in the news and everybody hears, there's a lot of people who want to support. So I knew that at least some people can give some big donation. I didn't know how much, but after the first group we did, I can see that there are a lot of people who want to give and donate, so I knew I can continue. But it's basically a step by step. It's not.
なるほど。そういう人たちとのネットワークっていうのは、活動を始めた時からあったものなんでしょうか？例えばそれがイスラエルという国をベースにしているから、そういう資金調達が の、ネットワークといいますか、協力してくれる方たちがいるって分かっているのか、それとも国際的な支援をする NGO だから、いろいろなところから人が、協力をしてくれるっていうのか、その辺はどうなんでしょうか。
We had a good network before, but I was shocked by how much this story speaks to people. For example, I text, like WhatsApp, like Line, messages, some prime ministers and ministers in the government and ambassadors, and everybody replied immediately. So this story, I think, was very moving for many people, and many people want to help more than other crises. So we can really use much bigger network than what we usually use.
日本がね、日本人とかまた日本のために働いてくれていたアフガニスタンの人たちをなかなか助け出せないでいるっていう状況があったのはご存知かと思うんですけれども、例えば日本のやり方とかそういうものを見ていて気づいた点とか、こうすればいいのにって思ったことってありますか？
I think in the beginning of this operation, in the airport, many countries didn't do good work. So Americans, Canadians, British, Germans, maybe Japanese, I think it was really chaotic and very difficult. The security situation was very unstable. So I think it's very sad that Japan and other countries too could not help these people. Especially the US, I think there was a lot of people they left behind. So I think it's very sad. And in terms of, but I do believe that there are solutions. There are still things that we can do now to help these people and to identify them and to arrange the flights. And, for me, I think it's a combination of finding creative solutions and being innovative, but also using a lot of diplomacy, because there are ways to get these permits or approval from the Taliban. So I hope Japan will be able to push and not give up and find ways to take out the people who supported Japan.
なるほど。ヨタムさんたちはまだまだアフガニスタンの人たちの救出は続けるんですか？たくさん依頼が来ちゃってるっていうのもあると思うんですけど。
So it's a good question. We received many requests. So we are doing two things. One, we are trying to help the people we already rescued to make sure they receive their visa for their next destination. And we also support them in the camp, especially in Albania. With providing education services and others. And for the rescue part, we are collaborating with other groups. So we are not just arranging it by ourselves, but we are partnering with other groups, just like we did last week with this Jewish family.
はい、もうほとんど聞いたということなんですけど、一つアフガニスタンで例えばバスをチャーターしたり、あるいはタジキスタンに逃げ出そうという人を案内している人、それはアフガニスタンの人なんですか？
The local people the people that we had in Afghanistan, our own people, like our partners in Afghanistan, not Israeli people.
つまりアフガニスタンの人、イスラエルと何らかの連携をするってことは、イスラエル、つまりユダヤ人の人たちと連絡取ったり協力をするアフガニスタンの人たちがいる。その人たち、アフガニスタンの国内で危ない目に遭わないんですか？
I think it puts them in a higher risk. That's why we are very careful of exposing their identity and we want to make sure that they don't have families. And actually, before they crossed the border, they didn't know that we are Israelis. So when they saw that Israeli helped them, most of them were very surprised.
はい、わかりました。それにしても、ヨタムさんは、なぜこういうイスラエイドという活動を に参加しよう、あるいはそれを作ろうということですか？ごめんなさい、そもそもイスラエルエイドを作ったメンバー、最初の。
ではない。まだ若いから。
わかりました、わかりました。はい、そうだね。はい。
Why I joined? I joined because I really believe that I want to help people in crisis around the world, but it's also important for me to connect them to Israel. So that's why I do it from Israel and not from UN or Red Cross or something like that. So for me, it's important to do two things: to save lives, but also to build bridges between people and Israelis.
それだけの活動をする、そのインセンティブといいますか、その自分を動かすものは何なんでしょ
う？ There are few incentives. First of all, to see the faces of the people after they were rescued is very powerful feeling. Number two is I see how these people change their mind about Israel. So this is also important. And number three, I'm from my own reasons. I love cultures. I love people. I love to learn different languages and to travel. I visited more than 60 countries through this project. I lived in many countries. So for me, it's a great learning opportunity. I learned so much from this work. So these are three reasons, I would say.
ヨタムさんは、例えば、宗教の違いとか、今回の活動の話なんかをお聞きすると、例えばユダヤ人の方がイスラム教の方たちを救出するっていうところに、日本人の方ではすごく驚く方も多いんですね。で、そういうことで、例えば宗教に関するこだわりとか、これまでの圧力とか、そういうことっていうのは、考えたことはないというか、そのあたりどんなふうに考えてらっしゃるんでしょうか？
I think, first of all, I'm not so religious, but, even religious people will agree that we and the Muslims are cousins. We have, according to the Bible, Abraham was the father of Judaism and also the father of Islam. And Jesus was born as a Jew. So we believe that really we are all connected. And also I think with this recent Abraham Accords, this peace between Israel and UAE, but started from UAE, now we also did a peace with Bahrain and Morocco. So we see, even though we still have a conflict with Palestinian, and unfortunately we don't have yet full peace in the Middle East, we do see a lot of progress in the last year between Muslims and Jews around the world. So I really see that we have a role to play to bring peace between people-to-people connection through this work.
なるほど。じゃあ、国内を見るとね、パレスチナの問題もあると思うんですけれども、その点については希望を持ってらっしゃいますか？
I'm really hopeful that we will be able to reach peace. And I think that politicians and governments on both sides didn't do such a good job. And I really hope that people, I believe that we can do more to connect between people in Israel and Palestine through business or through humanitarian work. And I'm hopeful that we will see a change, but it will take some time. I also think that if there will be more peace with neighboring countries like UAE, maybe Saudi in the future, I think it could also have a positive influence on the region and will also create a situation, because I don't think with Israel, I don't think we will ever get everything we want, the Jewish, and I don't think they will get everything they want. We have to compromise. We have to come to an agreement. And I think if the regional situation will get better, maybe it will help us reach an agreement sooner.
とってもリアルにどんなことがあったのかよくわかりました。ありがとうございました。
ヨタムさん、ありがとうございました。これからも活動頑張ってください。
はい。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございました。
池上さんどうでしたか、お話伺って。
いやもうとにかくね、臨機応変というのかな、その場その場で瞬時に判断しなければいけないということがあるんだけど、と同時にやはり国際的な人脈を持っているからこそいろんな人に頼むことができたんだなって感心したな。
で私も改めて感じたんですけれども、このヨタムさんたち、NGO ですよね。こういった NGO の方たちを通して本当は自分の国でも助けたいんだけれども立場上動くことができない、そういった国のトップの方たちから直接電話が来るとかね、そういったことで、お金の援助も得たりしながら、今回の作戦が成功するということになったんですが、今一度その、2回にわたる作戦ですね、それをおさらいしたいと思います。まずアフガニスタンからタジキスタンに出て、そして第三国にその救出した方たちを移動させるということを考えたわけなんですね。で1回目の時には UAE アラブ首長国連邦が受け入れてくれるというところで、ここの国に運ばれたわけなんですが、この2回目がうまくいかなかったわけなんですよね。国境を越えようと思っても越えられない、タリバンとの関係を作れるカタールにも口利きをお願いしたんですよね。でも実際には口を聞いてもらっても無理だったというようなことがありました。またパスポートもやっと取ったと思ったらもう一人一人取りに来いとタリバンに言われてしまった。またこの UAE もいっぱいいっぱいだと、もう受け入れが無理だと言われてしまった。そこで受け入れ先を探した時に受け入れてあげるよと言ってくれた国がアルバニアだったということなんですよね。
これは意外だったよね。カタールっていうと実はタリバンが政権を取る前にタリバンの言ってみれば大使館のようなものが実はカタールにあって、タリバンと交渉するときにはカタールで交渉するということをやってきた。だからカタールは、タリバンに影響力を持っているので、口利きをしてもらうということがあったんだけど、アルバニアって本当にヨーロッパ最貧国と言われてね、東西冷戦時代はいわゆる社会主義の独裁政権だった。その時に本当に経済が落ち込んでしまって、もう世界最貧国だから普段もほとんどニュースにならないんだけど、そこが受け入れてくれるってびっくりしたね。
それもやはりこのヨタムさんたちのこの国際 NGO の方たちが国連の総会などでこういった国のトップの方に会った時にご挨拶をしたり自分たちの活動の説明をしたりと、そういった一つ一つの積み重ねがあってでアルバニアが受け入れてくれるということになったわけですよね。
普段こういうことってなかなかニュースにならないんだけど、実はアフガニスタンをめぐってさまざまなニュースの陰でひっそりとというかこっそりとというか秘密の作戦が行われてきたんだよね。
だから成功の一つの要因になったのは、どの国の方たちもどこかで後ろめたさがあったりとか助けたいと思ってたりとか、そういったことをこういった NGO を通して何とかするという、そういうルートがあるんだなということを改めて感じましたね。
NGO ってそういう役割もあるんだな、あるいはそういうことができるんだなってことを知ったよね。
そうですね。だからこれからそういったところで働きたいとかそんなことを考えている人はこういう仕事もあるんだよということを理解してもらえたらなと思います。
YouTube 学園から新たに本が生まれました。
世界を救う mRNA ワクチンの開発者カタリン・カリコ、この YouTube 学園の動画でも紹介した方です。
ポプラ新書絶賛発売中です。
よろしくお願いします。